Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third episode of Sikh Treasures. I'm your host, Dr Savi. I've got with me Dr Chadha. Welcome.
Hi.
Also got with me Mr Bhupinder Singh. Bhasin. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so thanks so much for the previous two shows where we've had an opportunity to, in the last show, looking at the place that you went in terms of your family and where they came from, and actually just kind of thinking about what it was like then, and it was really great for you to share really how you felt. In the first show, we were talking about your motivation for going there and your aha moments. For this particular show, the third one in the series, we're going to explore the actual event that you went on, which is known as a yatra. So you went on the yatra. It's a set program of gurdwaras that you go into. It was, I think, a week after Guru Nanak's birthday. There was a particular gurdwara that we're going to focus in on today. Tell us a little bit more about, that gurdwara. And also, I think you had an opportunity to visit Lahore as well. I remember somebody once said to me that Lahore was the cultural capital of United India for so many years.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And I did watch one of those programs on the BBC, which was Gurinder Chadha, who the film director. She went back and she actually found the original scripts, the sheets that they used to write the registration certificates, like you have when someone gets married or dies, and they found these gigantic rolls. So really, Lahore must have been an admin centre as well. But let's still, kind of continue forward. Let's talk about the Gurdwara that you went, the birthplace of Guru Nanak. Tell us, how did it feel when you went there? All painted white, I think, isn't it?
Okay, so for the highlight of most yatras is actually this area called Nankana Sahib. Nankana Sahib being the birthplace of Guru Nanak, and actually it is a city, quite an established city, and in fact it has at least seven gurdwaras that we attended, which sort of commemorate the life of Guru Nanak and the different activities that happened. So it was a few hours journey from Lahore, which is the kind of the hub of this part of Pakistan. And in Nankana Sahib, then we basically journeyed from Gurdwara to Gurdwara, which are all remnants of Guru Nanak's life, culminating in the birthplace, which is the, if you like, Nankana Sahib Janam Isthan. So maybe Bhupinder can start, and I'll help you with that.
That'd be quite interesting to also, if you could tell us about. I think there are places where you could stay there as well, and I think we've discussed this before. Tell us about these, because they've allocated places where on special occasions like Guru Nanak's birthday people can stay, can't they?
Absolutely.
Tell us about.
Well, obviously you've got to remember. Obviously every day in our Ardas we remember Nankana Sahib, and we pray that the Sikhs can go and look after Nankana Sahib and the other gurdwaras left in Pakistan. And actually, so in that sense, before going, I used to think, well, look, Sikhs do look after Nankana Sahib and some of the other gurdwaras, but having now been there, you see very, very small Sikh Sangat, and that's the thing that's missing in a gurdwara. When you go and visit a gurdwara, it should always be a hive of activity. Like when we go here to our local gurdwaras, they're always busy, and so that was the difference. We chose to go to Nankana Sahib about a week after Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab. And so it was only the local Sangat that was there, which is in very small numbers.
But I think there's about 500 Sikh families in Pakistan.
I was going to say, what is the local
and they
consist
emanate from Nankana Sahib.
Okay.
So even when we were in Lahore looking at gurdwaras and there were sevadars, they all emanate from Nankana Sahib.
But you got a mix of people, right? You've got the local community that visit as well.
Yes, they do. Loads of non-Sikhs were going.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think I saw some of your photographs, and I think in some cases there are, even the Pradhan or somebody who's doing the Hukamnama, it wouldn't necessarily be a Sikh person doing that, right?
Oh no. Yes, the Granthis were always Sikhs at the places, but for example, actually one member of our group who doesn't necessarily wear a turban, he maybe that was the person you saw in the pictures.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Because he was taking a vark sometime in some of the pictures, yes. But Nankana Sahib itself, the history obviously is, well, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was born in a little town called Rai Bole Kitan Landi, and it was the chief of that town was called Rai Bular, and he was one of the first people to recognize Guru Nanak and being a special.
So
yes, absolutely. And actually it was Rai Bular who, because he donated a huge chunk of land to Guru Nanak and Guru Nanak's followers, and so that is now become Nankana Sahib. Actually we went, the organization that helped organize this trip was the Nankana Sahib Foundation, and the person who runs that, he lays claim to being a descendant of Rai Bular. So it was interesting to meet him. He actually lives here in London, in fact, but takes groups over.
So this organisation, just to interrupt you for a second, does that organisation look after that in terms
no,
of...
No.
There's somebody else who does that?
yeah, but he's got links basically with all the.
But then in terms of...
But so one of the first Gurdwaras we went to, or maybe the second one of the 7, was actually we went to the place where Guru Nanak was as a child underneath a cobra, where Rai Bular saw him and said,
that's a very famous story.
The cobra is actually covering Guru Nanak's head. Now the tree, and that where Guru Nanak was asleep, we actually went underneath that tree.
Oh, wow.
It still exists. Whether it's the exact tree I can't tell you, but they've made a Gurdwara there, and it's quite a big area. All of the Gurdwaras in Nankana Sahib are kind of huge.
Do you think the Gurdwaras are built because of a historic reference?
Yeah, absolutely. And they were made by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, a lot of them.
Okay.
So Maharaja Ranjit Singh was quite a stickler wherever Guru Nanak was involved. Although to be fair, in one of the Gurdwaras there in Nankana Sahib, that was where Guru Hargobind also visited, and actually the tree that he tied his horse to, they've preserved part of that.
Amazing.
So what else was that happened at that Gurdwara? I've forgotten now.
Well, there were a number of Gurdwaras, and so if as you go with the yatra, when you go and visit Nankana Sahib, you go and visit these 7 or 8
in
Gurdwaras.
sequence.
Yes. So we first visited Gurdwara Kera Sahib, which is where the famous story was that Guru Nanak was told to look after the cattle, and
his cattle
he fell asleep, and his cattle went into the next door neighbour's field and ate the plants and the crops, and then when people complained, they came to visit, and the crops were fine, and so that was the first Gurdwara.
And there is a massive Sarovar there, but it's empty.
Disused. Yeah,
it's all disused, and I think we made some donations to that place so that they have improved sanitation and so forth.
So this was my kind of where I was leading to before, that when you look at when you go to some of these places, there is money that does go to look after these Gurdwaras, isn't there? But I guess is that money raised through people coming on the yatras, or is it money that is raised by a special committee? Like you got SGPC and you got other people that kind of look after, like in Delhi they've got a separate group that look after Gurdwaras.
As far as I understand, now in Pakistan they have a Pakistan Gurdwara Committee, which is actually government controlled, and which then money is funneled through them actually into a lot of these Gurdwaras. So the Gurdwaras around Nankana Sahib, some of them have been built with lots of funds from abroad.
So the building where you can stay in, where did the money come for that? How does that?
Well, they would have come mostly from donations from India, UK, Canada, and
the maintenance
places.
of those.
Well, that's also interesting, because I said that Nankana Sahib, the Gurdwara, actually owns a lot of the town, and so from my understanding, they actually rent out a lot of these places that people whose shops they pay rent actually towards the Gurdwara. So some of the running expenses come from that.
So one has to admire that Pakistan, has kept those sort of mechanisms in place, if that is the case. And then Nankana Sahib Janamsthan, which is the big Gurdwara, is on par with Amritsar. The size is, and the Sarovar is fully, full of water.
Right.
Size of the place is quite substantial.
When you went to these places, obviously these are the main ones, right? But you also went to some places. We got some photographs, and when I looked at them, I thought, this particular wall, which had the most amazing picture on it, that picture is not being maintained, is it? That painting or that.
But those actually weren't so much gurdwaras. That was the Bedi Mahal, which is a palace where Guru Nanak's descendant Bedi, in a place called Kolar, had been. So there are things which, if it's not directly religious, although it's important to the Sikh religion, is not quite there.
I guess it's a definition of what is a Sikh treasure.
Correct. And if you go to Lahore Museum, you see entrances to Gurdwara and entrances to. They preserve them, but their buildings have been lost.
Okay.
So it's quite. And actually, in Lahore Museum, you'll see fantastic things like Maharaja Ranjit Singh's other throne, which we only see the one in Victoria and Albert Museum, but there are many other things. And also there is a there are collection from his Maharaja Duleep Singh's daughter Bamba. So there are paintings, original paintings done by local artists and Hungarian artists of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's
there was
court.
on that side,
Yes, and then we saw, for example, other people in our tour party. They saw Maharaja Ranjit Singh's shawl, his chappals, all that kind of stuff is all there. His the umbrella for the horse, and they've even put a stuffed horse there, but it's not the real thing. Unfortunately, that's been stolen. But a lot of stuff is actually there.
Right. So you did these trips to the Gurdwaras, then you went to Lahore, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then in Lahore, it's like a commercial. It's a
Lahore,
commercial hub, isn't it?
Lahore was Maharaja Ranjit Singh's capital.
Right.
So it was the capital of the Sikh Empire. And so there are lots of things in Lahore Fort, which we went to, that has a little Sikh museum within the Lahore Fort. And then they have a separate Lahore Museum, and they have a whole room dedicated to the Sikh tradition then as well. So, the Pakistanis are looking after some items of Sikh heritage and trying to learn about them, studying about them.
It makes you think that, what has actually been lost.
Absolutely.
There must be a lot that's actually not there anymore.
Absolutely.
If you had a glimpse of potentially,
in Lahore Fort, there are 2 tiny gurdwaras built right at the top of the fort. One has been completely destroyed, and that was destroyed by lightning. I think about 50, maybe 80 years ago, it was destroyed. And he's also made a Shisha Mahal Darbar right in the middle of Lahore Fort. Hopefully we'll get some pictures. They are amazing, right? And that too, the top layers have been destroyed by natural consequences. Nothing to do with anyone deliberately or willfully has done it. But the other thing is Dera Sahib, which is Guru Arjan Dev Ji's where he passed away. That is truly amazing, because Dera Sahib is connected to the great mosque of Lahore. These 2 buildings are intertwined. So you're looking at a view with a massive Muslim structure and one of the most important Sikh shrines, all built together, and it's a beautiful view. Hopefully we've got some pictures which we can show.
Let's talk about another area which is quite sad. If you go to it says Master Daru, you actually went to that place where his skull was forcibly removed, right?
Yeah. So
did they build a Gurdwara there?
Well, absolutely, yes. So we went to Gurdwara Shaheed Ganj, which locally is called Singha Nagar Gurdwara.
And whereabouts is that in the location of all
it's just part of Lahore's periphery. It's in the city.
It's in the city, right?
Yeah, very close to Delhi Gate in Lahore. Lahore has a number of big gates built during the time of the Mughals.
And rebuilt in the time of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And then rebuilt by the British. On top of it, I think,
So the Singha
some monuments as well, aren't there? I think you showed me some pictures of that.
So the Singha Gurdwara, obviously that name, the locals call it the Singha Gurdwara because again, in our ardas, we think about the Singha who lost their lives. And this was referring to the Chota Gurdwara in about 1760s or 1740s rather, where thousands of Sikhs were
They
killed.
said 190,000 Sikhs were killed during that time. And this is when we almost finished. So when we talked earlier on about Behedi Mahal, these were the new people who came afterwards. But the reason why the local Mughal tyrants at that time had put a price on every Sikh's head, and they were trying to forcibly convert. So we actually saw the millstones where the ladies that we talk about in Ardas You know, they show if you've seen in some gurdwaras, they have the millstone and they have a hard. The ladies are wearing a hard with their babies' heads. So the babies' heads are being cut off. I know it sounds sick, but to be honest, this is no different from what, you know, ISIS and people do today. The barbaric stuff. And then you can see the millstone. You can see the jail where they were kept. And this is where Gurdwara. But interesting story about this Gurdwara. The interesting story was that over the years after partition, this Gurdwara basically became a commercial centre and used by other people because it's right in the hub of the market. But they won a court case in probably 20 years ago, something like that, to say that this is Gurdwara property. And although we think of Pakistan as a failed state in some regards, they've done it. They've managed to get it back. So judiciary still has a place in Pakistan, and the rightful ownership of that Gurdwara has been restored, and that's why they've rebuilt the Gurdwara there, and the money has actually come from the UK to rebuild this Gurdwara.
It's good. I mean, it's a good thing that at least there are people out there in the world that want to preserve heritage, to make sure that for generations to come, people realise what actually happened.
Can I just tell you about one more exciting thing? We were in Lahore by ourselves without really a proper guide. We were just there with our taxi driver navigating the streets. Luckily it was a Sunday and things were quite quiet because this is practically the busiest part of Lahore, which is old. It's like old Delhi, tight streets. We go down this street. He says there's a Gurdwara there. We couldn't go by car. The street was too tight. Get in. We're seeing some yellow doors. They look rather bright and well kept compared to some of the other things. Knock on the door. We said, I don't know if we're ever going to see anyone there. We open up and we come into a very, very, very significant and beautiful Gurdwara, which is Guru Ram Das Janamastan. It is 100% copy of Harmandir Sahib. Harmandir Sahib is based on this, or this is based on Harmandir. I can't tell you which, but the difference is like going into Harmandir Sahib after coming from an alleyway or coming from right around Amritsar. It's huge. But the actual Gurdwara, you can walk in it. The complex is exactly brick for brick, the same design, except in this case is white. And we managed to climb up, and we found a sort of guy who was 20 odd years old. He's a Sevadar there studying. He was doing Reras Sahib.
It's a copy of the central Harmandir Sahib, not
as opposed to the complex.
Without the Sarovar, yes.
Right, sure.
And so it was quite amazing that we just someone opened the door. We went in, and there was one chap doing Reras Sahib when we went there.
And you got to see the amazing bit about this is in the morning that day we went to another Gurdwara which was completely derelict, which was actually probably almost bigger than this place. I mean, but it was derelict. And then so we opened these doors expecting to see another hovel, but what we found was miraculously, and it had been restored and paid for again by people from the UK. I think
that's really good. I mean, like I said, it's really great that and it's so good that you've experienced it and you've come back and you told us about an experience of your life, really.
I tell you, I've been right around the world. Would you
go again and discover more?
I think if I go again, I would go with my family. I think it would be quite, I've done it for myself.
It would be nice to have some kind of documentaries to, out there live talking about, some of the, the great lost treasures as well as the treasures that are still being maintained.
Fantastic.
It'd be good. So it's good to have you on. 3 shows. We are going to get together and maybe we'll talk about doing one more special at some stage. But we really appreciate all your time over the last few weeks where you've got together and planned it, shared with us all your journeys, your experiences, your emotions, and more importantly, things that you will take forward not only to tell your kids, and we had a great opportunity on Sikh Channel to share it with everyone else and any other outlets where this particular program is going out. So we look forward to seeing you another time with some more Sikh treasures at some stage. Thanks so much again. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.